What is up, guys? The Strong Boys 19 here, and this is going to be my proper album review take on Slipknot's newest album that just came out a few weeks ago, entitled We Are Not Your Kind. So for the occasion, I decided to buy one of the new released t-shirts. This is a long sleeve that you can buy along with other merchandise from Slipknot's merch store. But with that being said, We Are Not Your Kind is the sixth studio album by my favorite band of all time, Slipknot, and this is the follow-up to 2014's Point Five, The Grey Chapter, which I really enjoyed that album a lot, even though that I gave it like a high review with a YouTuber called Supermetal1993, who you should definitely subscribe to. I will put a link in the description below. Check out his videos. He's a really cool guy as well. This is the sixth album released into the label of Roadrunner Records, and Greg Fadelman did the production for this album, and Joe Barresi did the mixing standards for We Are Not Your Kind, just like Point Five, The Grey Chapter. We have heard the non-album single first on All Out Life, to some singles on Sainted, Solway Firth, Birth of the Cruel. I find We Are Not Your Kind to be the beginning of a huge turning point into the band musically and lyrically, and the experimentalism that remains so prominent into the songwriting standards, which I will talk about later on into this review. This album is 63 minutes in length, and like the other Slipknot albums, from the debut to The Grey Chapter and now We Are Not Your Kind, they are more than an hour long. We Are Not Your Kind is, for me, one of these albums that has quite a lot to dive into. Even though that I had expressed my analysis, my first thoughts and feelings about this album, I decided to play the album constantly, more and more over time, to really go into like a proper take on what I think about this album. Something different to what you hear from The Grey Chapter. The Grey Chapter was more on a tribute and dedication to their late bass player, Paul Gray, who passed in 2010 from an accidental overdose of phenytoin and morphine at 38. With that time out of the way, and with the difficulties from Corey Taylor personally, from the divorce of his wife, and the lineup changes once again, the departure of Chris Fane, and having in this new member to replace Chris's role, and many people see him as either the new guy or the Tortilla Man, and I find the Tortilla Man to be a little bit of a cheesy quote to describe the new member as that. But all that aside, We Are Not Your Kind still has that very, very big, full sound that we know and love, that signature, brutal, aggressive, very catchy vibe of instrumentation on some of these tracks. But as the later half of the album goes, the experimentalism really comes through into something that we would not expect from Slipknot than any of their albums. I personally think that Corey's vocals are at his very, very best in such a long time. His growls and screams have been improving, and I'm really, really pleased that his power and strength as a screamer and a growler can really feel so big and huge into this side of music. And even the cleans, his vocals on the cleans were so damn brilliant, very, very impressive. And as I had heard that he had stopped smoking and drinking entirely, it was something for the better in the end. The production is simply really strong, one of the best produced albums in Slipknot's discography, in my own opinion. I love the guitar tone that is so big, and the bass, fat sound. The drums sound perfect, and everything in between, from the sampling to the DJ scratching and the ambience that they've used in this kind of instrumentation, fit in very, very nicely. Insert Coin, the first interlude, well, intro I should say, starts this album off, and it's not a long introduction, and it reminds me somehow on electronic ambient industrial vibe of like a Fear Factory kind of sound. I don't know about you, but that is like what I think about it. And that goes into the single Unsainted. And I still think that Unsainted is one of the best Slipknot tracks. Noises in the background, and with the choir coming in, and then as it progresses from the intro to the clean vocals, and with the background of the drums and the guitars coming in, the whole band bursts into action with their own intensity. And I find that the chorus is really, really good. It's very memorable, and it's one of the strong tracks in this new repertoire, in my opinion. Birth of the Cruel is a high favourite for me. I always love this song. I find it to be of a better track than Unsainted. I still feel that it reminds me of Prosthetics from their self-titled debut album, low-pitched vocal passages from Corey, and the darkness of this song really continues on, especially with the chorus that was really punchy and just in your face. One of the songs that it gets better every time I listen to it. I highly enjoy Nero Forte. The only Volume 3 Subliminal Verses era sounding song, from the way that the chorus was going into these verses and the fast style rapping from Corey, it has that reminiscence of a track from Volume 3, in my opinion. Critical Darling, one of the darker sounding songs, has some of Corey's impressive vocal passages, especially when he goes really high in the registers of his vocal deliveries. Moody, and it has some atmosphere into it. But my favourite song on this album is, without a doubt, Red Flag. Red Flag is my new favourite Slipknot track in a very long time. As much as I see that Before I Forget from Volume 3 is my favourite Slipknot song entirely, Red Flag is like the first new favourite Slipknot track, and I absolutely adore this song. It's just so menacing, very, very catchy, and I love the very glitchy, out of control, glitchy sounds that comes in with the instrumentation at some points. So great. It's powerful, and I love the delivery from the screams to the low spoken words in the chorus. I think it fits. In terms of the later tracks on this album, What's Next is like the only instrumental where it goes into jingle jangly, childish kind of vein, but it's quite a bit of a spooky touch to it, which leads to Spiders, which is, in my opinion, my least favourite song on this whole album. I don't see it as a bad track, although it still reminds me on a Rammstein kind of feel. Some people say that it has a bit of like a gothic edge to it, like a Marilyn Manson kind of feel to it, and I would have to agree. But I feel that some of the lyricism, like the chorus, can be a bit cheesy, and the song itself, musically, is pretty good, with some crazy, fuzzy, noisy guitar solos and hand claps in the song, but it's not like one of the songs that I feel connects with the rest of the other songs entirely, in my opinion. My Pain, which is the only song that has no distortion, no drums, no aggression, drone, ambient pace of the song, and I really do like this. It just feels haunting in a way, and Corey's clean vocals were very, very good with the harmonies. I find the outros on some of these tracks, like on My Pain and the next track, Not Long for This World, to go on a little bit too long, that it feels meandering. Not Long for This World is one of the songs that Corey goes into his very expressive mood, and I really do like this track as well. It is one of the personal songs on here, really good flow and loud choruses, and everything in between from it is very, very good. And speaking of personal lyricism, there's a song on here called Orphan, which is one of the strongest tracks on this album. It still reminds me of the Heretic anthem, but I absolutely love the intensity and the brutality of this song with the low-tuned guitars and the fast drumming from Jay's style, and lyrically deals from past of Corey's where he was overdosing too much of drugs and that his friends at the time decide to carry his body and just throw him down in the dumpster, which I think was a disgusting, sickening way to do that. That is not how you treat your people, guys. And to really think of that as an inspiration for lyrics, I would give Corey a lot of respect and credit to express his anger and frustrations into something this deep yet very bad at the same time. Solway Firth, the last track, I think is a perfect closing track, and it opens with some more of that dark ambience with Corey's vocals in the background, and then the whole band goes into it straight away from the first scream. This track has so much to dive into, a lot of some fast guitar playing to quick double bass drum patterns. It is one of the songs that was so rage-inducing and very, very big in sound and musicianship that Solway Firth, in my opinion, is one of the strongest closing tracks from Slipknot in a long time, especially with other songs that are closers like Iowa, to Scissors, including the hidden track of Eeyore. But I find that Solway Firth really finishes the album off on such a very, very great note. Other than that, the musicianship from the rest of the guys, the guitar riffs are fantastic and really gritty and nasally. The drumming from Jay was outstanding. I think it shows some of his best drumming ever than some of his drumming from Point 5 The Great Chapter, in my opinion. And the rest of the instrumentation from the drones to the ambience I really like a lot, and that the production was really, really great. So, despite some of the criticisms that I would say about this album, this is definitely one of the albums that I see as Slipknot's best album in such a very, very long time. My album rating for We Are Not Your Kind is definitely going to be the same. It's a 9.5 out of 10. And despite the drawbacks, this album is still, to me, one of the best and intense, yet hugely varied albums that Slipknot had put out. And I'm still very, very thrilled that We Are Not Your Kind is now #1 in the UK and in different countries. The band truly deserves it. And I'm sure a lot of the other fans would agree with me on that. So that is it for my proper in-depth review of We Are Not Your Kind by Slipknot. And let me know what you think about this album in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.